are you doing today? Are you with me, Bill? Well, I know you're here. Dr. Football. Well, I don't know, but he can call back, and then he'll be back on with us. Anyways, I'll cut the music. I'll roll on. He'll be back with us. No big deal there. Dr. Football joining us in a second. I'll catch you up to date on the latest here today with Browns training camp and some of the things that have went down. Jason Pinkston, let me start there. We had talked earlier in LG last week, and I talked a bit about it, the blood clots, and that was what it was. Obviously, the Browns couldn't talk because you cannot talk about health-related issues like that without the express permission of the player. But Jason Pinkston has now come out and told the story, and that is exactly what happened before camp. He had a recurrence of the blood clot in his lung. This one, much worse. He used the words life-threatening when it came to this one, and it's definitely going to be the end of his NFL career, as Pinkston was waived by the Browns, and he will be ending his career here. It's too much of a risk to his health and his life for him to be able to play football. So unfortunately, I think Pinky had a bright future. He was a very nice guy, great guy, but it was exactly what I thought when he was held out of training camp there. I knew as soon as I saw the release, I said, he's definitely had a reoccurrence here. And he said this one much more severe than the one before. We wish him the best. He's great. If you guys follow him on Twitter, Jason Pinkston's the man. Very good dude, loves the city of Cleveland, and it's a shame, but I'm glad, hey, you'd much rather that this is the story than anything else. So Jason Pinkston no longer with the Browns, his NFL career over. I'm going to try this again, and I think it's going to work. Going back to the phones as we talk some Browns and some NFL, my man, Dr. Football, in the house.
Tell me you can hear me this time.
I can hear you loud and clear, baby. How you doing?
I'm doing good, and I listened this morning on Mixel for the first time. Very good show so far. I hope to help you continue having a good show here.
Well, thank you very much, and we're rolling on here. I talked a little bit about some of the things coming out of Browns training camp today. Before we get into the Browns, though, I wanted to ask you something. I mentioned this yesterday and then never got to it, but I don't know, and you may have a completely different feeling than me on this. Some people like the guy, but man, Andy Dalton, when I saw the contract that came out yesterday that Cincinnati laid on him, was at 6 years for $115 million, and I don't know, man. When I see Andy Dalton, I do not see a triple-digit quarterback. But, I mean, hey, you tell me, what do you think? What were your thoughts when you saw that deal?
Well, first of all, I said another NFL millionaire in the books, and, the Ginger Ninja is not a quality player. But the problem is that I don't think he's worth that kind of money either. And the problem is most of it's guaranteed. You like that? I let you use that one. You could.
I like that. I
give
do.
You credit for it. You could use it.
I love it, man. But how much of that is guaranteed?
I believe it's half. I believe it's $48 million plus some of the incentives are practically guaranteed because they're all makeable.
Bank. That is some bank, Bill. I mean, wow, man. I mean, I just don't see Andy Dalton as that level of guy, but obviously they do. And I've heard that they believe that Gruden and it was some of the offense was the problem. And they believe that it retarded the growth of Andy Dalton. I've heard that from some people down in Cincinnati, so maybe I don't know. Have you heard that too? Is there some smoke to that? What do you think? I mean, I get the potential, but then I just don't see franchise guy when I look at Andy Dalton. I see, okay,
I see a lot of, I can understand a lot of the smoke screen. Some of the people I talk to that understand quarterbacks and quarterback coaching, two guys in particular told me that, he still has some things they'd like to fix out of his motion. And he's not susceptible to change like a lot of other guys are, that are willing to work on changing their motion. And it was interesting because I don't know how much of the game you saw Sunday night, but at one point there was a graphic and let's give Chris Collinsworth a pat on the back here. He went to this graphic where he showed you how much better E.J. Manuel's motion has become. And, my wife turned to me and said, I don't see anything different. All I see different is the swish of his pen was a little different. And I said, yeah, that's about the size of it.
So I don't know, man. Do you think that Andy Dalton can develop into a quarterback that's worth that kind of money? I mean, I could see Joe Flacco getting the big contract, even, with his playoff success, even in the limited sample size that it was, getting to the big game, all of that. Like, at least their arguments can be made. I don't know. I just don't feel that when it comes to Andy Dalton. But do you think that he can become a guy that makes that look like a smart contract?
He could, but he'd have to have a lot of help to do it. And I don't know how much help they have right there right now. A lot of people saying, that the steady growth of the Bengals the last couple of years is more the smoke screen and mirrors than anything else.
I don't know. I wanted to bring that up. I kind of teased it yesterday that we were going to talk about it, and then I never got around to it. When I saw that, I said, man, Andy Dalton, really? 115? I don't know, man. But so I'm just curious. It just maybe that's the going rate for a quarterback that'll get you, a lot of mediocrity, I mean, maybe that's it. Maybe that's the way we're going here. And then I don't know. But if that's the case, man, then where do the great ones go from there? If Andy Dalton is getting 60 guaranteed and then 115 in this thing, man, then what do the Super Bowl winning quarterbacks ask for at that point? You know what I mean? Like, what's Russell Wilson money at that point?
Well, you know what? First of all, Flacco got that contract because he won the Super Bowl, not because of his entire body of work up to that point. Okay,
and he bet on himself too. He laid it out there, and they gave him an offer, and he said, "You know what? No, I'm going to ride this thing out and see." Much like we talked about Brian Hoyer here, he said, "Hey, I'm going to wait and see. If I happen to catch on, then I can get a whole lot more money. I'm not signing anything now." So it paid off for him, but I don't know, man. Go ahead. Sorry, was throwing that in there.
No, and you're right. You're absolutely right. It's really definitely something to have to mull over. And with the cap getting a little bigger every year, there's a little more room. But when you have guys you have to pay, you got to pay 46 other guys besides the quarterback. You got to pay a backup quarterback, and you got to pay 45 other guys the dress. The budget is only but so much.
Now they got to pay A.J. Green. That's the next deal now, and you're already hearing that there may be some issues with that there. They might have to use the franchise tag on him to get him to stay, depending on how that starts to roll out. So, and there's the same thing too, man, because if I'm A.J. Green, I'm going to the Bengals like, well, if you think Andy Dalton's worth $115 million, I'm one of the reasons why he's worth it, So let's start talking about how much do I get paid here. And then so that could, and the Bengals have never, and that was the other thing too. Bengals have never really been big in the big payouts. You know what? I'm not saying they're cheap, but kind of like we know the financial situation always with Cincinnati. They've never been big fans of spending like that. So I think maybe even a little more shocked. Maybe it's done to show a change of direction. Hey, we're going to commit to guys. And if that, I get it. You made your commitment to Dalton, and that shows everybody, hey, we will commit to our guys, even if they may not be the franchise guy. They're still our franchise guy.
Yeah, good point. And, I agree with these guys getting whatever money they can get because 5 years after you retired and you lose your insurance, you're either headed for the Hall of Fame or you're not. You're headed for mediocrity, and you better have a post-football career you're working on, whether it's coaching, education, broadcasting, whatever. Once these guys are done playing, they're done. And more and more people are beginning to realize the toll that the injuries take on people.
Oh, yeah, you and I talk about that all the time
right.
here, Let's segue off of that. I definitely spent more time than I wanted to on Andy Dalton. Let's talk about the Browns and what's going on with them. I guess we could really kind of cherry pick our place of places to begin here, but start with Josh Gordon. I guess that's kind of the big one. And I think what I'm most surprised about is that now that the appeal hearing is over with, and you give me your take on this too, because we talked about all the build up to it. Yesterday, I even mentioned, I just thought how ridiculous it was that, you know, Outside the Lines blew the lid off this thing in May, and then we're still dealing with it here heading into the first week of the preseason. But looking at the appeal now, they're talking about minimum of 1 to possibly even up to 3 weeks before a decision is announced. That to me is, I don't know, man. We're going another 1 to 3 weeks with this thing, really? Like, what else is there to wait for? We've had the whole hearing. It took all day and part of another day. There's no evidence that has not been done. There's no argument that hasn't been made. Why is there a 1 to 3 week delay on the announcement of this thing?
You know, and that's the thing. You know, everybody expected an announcement to come yesterday. Then they said, okay, it'll come tomorrow morning. And now, you know, we realize it may be, 7 to 21 more days before there's an actual decision. You know, I think that is good for Josh, that it may be it may not be as long as a lot of other people expected. Especially if he enters a voluntary program, it may only be 4 weeks or 6 weeks. And, that kind of salvages the season a little bit for him and for the Browns. If he gets 8 weeks or more, he gets a whole season, he's going to be devastated, and rightfully so. The Browns have to be prepared to move on without him at least for the month of September, if not longer. And that's really what their focus is. Yeah, he's out there practicing, but you would be surprised if he continues to practice with the first team after, say, tomorrow or Thursday,
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I just thought, man, and I'm with you. I was in the group that figured once it was done, I'm like, okay, this is like most arbitration cases. Maybe it won't be immediately tonight. Maybe the judge needs to write up or the arbiter or whatever needs to write up the ruling and all of that before it gets released. So they're going, okay, a day at the most before this thing goes. I guess I just thought, man, why keep it going? And I know a lot of people have told, just in my conversations, have the same feeling that you did, that the longer the better. And I don't know, man. I will say this, as I see Bruce in the chat room, if after all of this, it turns out to just be the 1 year suspension, cut and dry, we're not talking about anything else, I don't know, that almost seems like a whole lot of wasting time and a whole lot of work for nothing, because we ended up doing nothing with it anyway. So maybe you're right. Maybe that delay means that they're sitting there going, hey, listen, Roger, we have to adjust this thing because you're going to get blasted in the media here if we, and maybe they're saying, listen, we don't care. We got to stick to the letter of the collective bargaining agreement. I don't know. And you know what, too? I mean, there's bigger issues at play than just Josh Gordon and his season. And if you don't see it that way, you're nuts, because this is going to set precedents. This is not only going to set precedents now for the players, but how this goes down is going to be a big contention point in the next time that they sit down and look to put a collective bargaining agreement together. Like how this is handled, the length of the suspension, the technicalities, the samples, all of that, this is going to be a big part. So this is almost like, and I don't mean to make it sound like a giant experiment, but it's kind of a giant social experiment here, the punishment, the appeal, and everything, because this is going to go towards crafting whatever happens in the next CBA, Yeah,
and not only that, he took a lot of heat for only giving Ray Rice 2 games.
Well, that's what I mean. That's going to play right into it.
In Atlantic City, and by the same token, they, the folks that are helping him handle the situation have to say, hey, Roger, if you're only going to give Ray Rice 2 games to banging his wife around, you can't blame these people for getting mad because Josh didn't do, any of that to anybody else. What he did to himself. And, this is a situation where he needs our help more than anything else. Now, I'm not just saying that because we're on a Cleveland show. I'm saying that because the truth is the truth. If you're going to give a guy 2 weeks for banging around his wife, you really can't give Josh a year for being, out on a drug suspension. You can give him 6 weeks, you can give him 8 weeks, you can give him 4 weeks. But if you give him a year, you're saying that it's okay to bang your wife around, but it's not okay to take drugs. That's not a good message you're sending either.
And I'll tell you what, more than anything else, and you and I didn't get a chance to go into this, but I mentioned it last week on the show, the one thing that to me stuck out the most that the NFL needs to talk about. It's not that Josh Gordon failed. It was, and of course, we're not even talking about the differences in the punishments. I'm just simply looking at just the marijuana part of their punishment and the fact that the NFL